Hey everybody, this is Matt Shu from Upright Health. Today I'm coming to you from Vietnam. I wanted you to be able to see the gorgeous view here, but if I point the camera out that way, you won't be able to see me. So I'll just show you the scenery in other ways. Now, I am out here on my honeymoon with my new wife and my first wife. So new and first. And we're approaching the tail end of the trip, which means I've been looking at my email again and looking at different comments and questions that have come up. And I noticed some people getting really interested in femoral acetabular impingement and some of the videos I've done in the past on that topic. And there was one comment that got my attention. I forgot who it was. I'm on vacation mode, so I don't remember the name. But it was a guy who said he doesn't think strengthening and stretching would do the trick because it's really about the labrum and the bone. That guy probably didn't watch my video all the way through and definitely didn't read my blog post, which you can find. I'll link it in the description for this video. My blog post that details the research on femoral acetabular impingement and how they use MRI to confirm the diagnosis, and how that just makes no sense given the research that they've already done in the published studies on the correlation between symptoms and MRI findings. To summarize it, basically, there is no correlation between what you see in the MRI and what kind of range of motion issues you run into. That being said, this guy who commented on my video said he thinks strengthening and stretching will not do the trick entirely. I've also read a couple comments where people said they did P90X or they tried a bunch of squats or whatever exercises and it didn't help them at all. So they're pretty sure they're just going to have to get surgery. So what I want to be clear about, and maybe I was too flippant, too casual with the comments I made in my previous video about this, and that's why there's this confusion, but what I want to be clear about is that it's not just about stretching and strengthening per se. It's about also developing the coordination to do a full range of motion with your hip joints so that you have stretch and strength in many different directions and not just in the specific exercises that you're doing. So I talk about a lot of different specific exercises that help you activate different muscles, but you have to think about not just being good at those specific exercises. I use those exercises to help build up more range of motion so that my hips can do more than they have been able to do in the past. So I'll give you an example. I used to not be able to come down into what one of my clients calls an Asian squat, and having now been in Vietnam for about 2 weeks, I've seen a lot of squatting. Squatting on the sides of boats, I've seen squatting in the street, I've seen people mowing the lawn with scissors, squatting in the grass for extremely long periods of time. Now, I wasn't able to do this before because I had certain, not just tightness, but functional insufficiencies with my muscles. So in order to get to the deep squat, a lot of muscles have to learn to relax properly while also stabilizing other parts. So if you think about your hamstrings, this was a big deal for me. I couldn't get down low like this, actually because my hamstrings wouldn't allow it. And now when you think about it from like a textbook standpoint, your hamstrings, most people think about tightness from hamstrings limiting this motion. But if your hamstrings are functionally stiffening in certain pieces of the range of motion, you're going to see it restrict your ability to do things like squat. So for me, my lateral hamstrings, my biceps femoris, I've done a video on a stretch for that before. I did that stretch for about I kept switching legs, but for about 5 minutes I was doing a bunch of stretching on that. One afternoon, because I realized I couldn't squat, I started doing that stretch, and boom, suddenly I regained my ability to squat. An ability that I had lost, I should mention, I had lost that ability for years and years and years because my hamstrings had no idea how to function when I went down into the squat. Now these days, one thing that I've found that is very useful, I actually found very useful on this trip, is I have to look at what specific motions feel wrong and then address the muscles that might be making that motion feel wrong. So let me move the camera here so you can see this. So one thing I noticed when I'm sitting a lot, I'm just I'm hanging out in an airplane or in a bus, moving around. What I find is then when I lie in bed and I go to do something like this, I get restriction. I feel like when I come here, I start to feel like, oh man, my spine is starting to compensate because I'm not getting true hip flexion. And now you can do a lot of hamstring stretching, and I have, obviously, and it doesn't really seem to help by stretching here, it just doesn't seem to do it. And I feel the most issue when I have the knee bent, which is funny because then you think, well, then the hamstrings aren't really shortened, right? But what I find is, for me, and this is something you should play with, is actually the distal hamstrings, part of my hamstrings that are closer to the knee. Those are actually right here in a shortened position, and those can also affect what's happening up at the hip joint. So then I need to work here. I'm just kind of doing a little self-myofascial release, a little self-massage deep into the distal hamstrings, where I'm really, really tight today because I did a bunch of hamstring stuff about 2 days ago. And I work that out, and then I find, oh hey, suddenly I can actually go further. I don't feel it in my back anymore. Now it's not as dramatic in this video because I have been doing this already this morning. But this morning when I went to do this just lying in bed, I get to about here, and then I started to feel the background and some funky things happening, which should sound familiar for anyone who has been diagnosed or worries about having hip impingement, right? But you need to think about it not as all about here in the hip joint. Think of it as the things that affect the hip joint. And basically, you just need to address the muscles that affect the motions of the hip joint, right? If, and this has happened to me, if I find coming out to the side is an issue when I'm lying down like this, I can start working the fascia and the muscles all along the inner thigh in the position or in a similar position to the one that feels wrong, right? So if I go into this position and it feels all restricted, I can work on it this way, or I could come up, I can try to work on it this way or this way, putting it into positions that help release the tight stuff when it's tight, right? You know, it might not be tight this way, but if I come out another 45 degrees, I might feel that tightness, and that's where I want to work it. If I feel like I can't rotate out like that, I need to find the stuff that seems to be making it hard to rotate. It goes beyond the idea of just stretching a muscle, right? It's finding the position in which the muscle is not working correctly and then helping it learn to relax fully. It's not just about, oh, stretch your hamstrings. It's about figure out, are the hamstrings not getting the right not activation signal, but not getting the right signal from your brain to kind of ease up and do the thing correctly? If that's the case, how do you retrain it? Find the motions that aren't smooth and gradually smooth them out. All right, so I hope that helps everybody out there who's looking at other ways to improve their hip mobility. This is Matt Chu, sweating in Vietnam, hoping you remember that pain sucks. Life should.